Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and it's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Welcome, everyone, to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, a podcast for Packer fans wondering, what the hell is a Bailey Zappi? I'm your co-host, Charles, and with me, as always, is Marcus. Marcus, how are you?
Doing well, Charles. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Marcus, the Green Bay Packers won against Bailey Zappi, the third-string quarterback.
In decisive fashion.
in extra innings, a few extra minutes there in overtime. We got the W, but how do you feel after that game?
Look, it's a win. You know what I mean? I'm never going to feel bad about a win. I know that all the pundits think that you need to have style points and you need to win big and destroy the competition. But look, every player and coach will echo that it's hard to win in the NFL. And if you get a win, a win should be celebrated. Okay. Did they, beat an inferior team? Yes. Should they have probably won in regulation and not had taken this game to overtime? Yes. Should they have won by 10 points? Probably. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I mean, the refs gifted them with a touchdown, essentially, the Patriots, with that blown play clock call. But, it is what it is. You're 3-1, and I think we all feel pretty good about that at this point.
I think you feel great about being 3-1. I think you have to win games like this to be in contention for that number one seed. I think where the pundits and the fans, kind of have a point, about criticizing the style of wins is where it becomes a question of sustainability, right? Like, what do we do when we come out like that against the Bills, right? I just don't think this is a sustainable way to go about our business. And I think, your players and coaches would come back to me and say, yeah, we got to improve and we're going to improve and we're going to, play up to those teams. But through the first 4 weeks, I mean, I'm not as confident as I would like to be.
I mean, first of all, in our preview of the season, I thought the Patriots were going to win this game. And we saw it yesterday. Even with a third string quarterback, they were hanging in there. And if anybody can coach a team to a win, it's Belichick. Okay. I think it played out kind of how I thought it was going to be. Like, it's kind of a weird, wonky, goofy game, ground and pound. And we saw that kind of play out. And our defense didn't play as well as I think they probably should have, especially against a third string quarterback. But again, they've got the greatest coach of all time. No slight to Vince Lombardi, but I mean, Belichick, I think, is probably the greatest coach that's ever coached in the NFL. And,
I think that's a good point. I mean, obviously he gets all the accolades and for good reason. And I am not a great football mind, despite what you all think. But to me, that first half didn't look like out coaching. It looked like complete miscommunication, this is true. I thought to myself, in the first half, it looks like we know we're going to win. Therefore, we're going to practice some of these deep ball throws that we probably aren't going to pull off, but let's just try it while we have this, not so good team out there. Like, that's what it felt like they thought when I was watching it. I know that's not the case, but it was just like weird play calls, deep bombs, and terrible timing from Rodgers and from the receivers. And it just was baffling to me.
Yeah, Roger, I mean, he played awful in the first half, and he admitted to as much in his post-game press conference. But yeah, I mean, I think to an extent you play down to the opponent a little bit. You come out flat because you think maybe you're going to win, and I don't know that this team necessarily should think that ever, at least until they kind of show that they can be a really good team. But I mean, this team is still figuring itself out, and I think that's more a symptom of this offense still kind of getting to know what they are and how how they're going to be moving forward. So yeah, I mean, out of sync, some really bad throws by Rodgers in the first half. Like I just felt like I mean, okay, I'm not gonna say I could go out and make those throws, but I mean, those are he missed some throws that
that he hits.
Zappy could have made.
Right.
But
Exactly.
yeah,
Well,
I don't know, man.
Well, before we get away from the offense, and we were just talking very generally there, let's talk about some of the specific players. Romeo Doubs had two obvious plays that we would all like back: the fumble, and obviously the drop, which I think is a drop. Are you in the camp where you think that should have been a touchdown? Here we go.
No, I don't. I'm not really sure. I mean, they said that he didn't complete the catch, which is fair. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if he didn't complete the catch, it's not a catch. I don't really know what else to say. I mean,
I thought that was about as close to the Des Bryant catch that you can get, and I know the rules have softened and more in favor of the receiver since then. But like, everyone accuses me of being a homer for thinking the Des Bryant catch way back when wasn't a catch. But I don't think at all that Doubs caught that because it clearly hit the ground and popped out of his control. And I think that was clear. And it's weird to me to see online that we got robbed of that one, but I just don't think we did.
Yeah, and again, not sure I understand the rule completely because to me he had 2 feet down, then he fell, went to the ground, and the ball came out. I guess I don't know. Is it like they say he didn't make a football move, but he was sliding on the ground on his back? Like what football move can you make at that point? And like, what does that mean? Like, is it a matter of, like they talk
and the
about,
end zone's different than the field of play now.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. I mean, obviously if the ball hadn't touched the ground and his arms were underneath it and he slides over onto his back, that's a catch. But again, I don't really, I guess I don't really understand because if you catch it, if it's in the field of play and he gets 2 feet down, then he fouls and hits the ground. I was under the impression that the ground can't cause a fumble. I guess maybe
it would have been for sure. It would have for sure been incomplete in the field of play. I think the only reason why it was questionable because it was in the end zone, where technically the play is over as soon as he gets possession of the ball with 2 feet down.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't
know.
I would say that he didn't catch it. Something he needs to work on. He's got
to keep that wrapped up with 2 arms, right? I mean, you're in the end zone. There's no reason to.
I mean, it's a tough catch. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure he didn't go. He wasn't going through the process of catching that ball and thinking, I'm not gonna wrap this up, or I'm not gonna. Right. He's a great athlete. He's got great body control, but sometimes it's a physical mistake, and that happens. I'm not gonna give him too much grief for that one, but you can't fumble the ball every game either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. True. He's dropped what? 1 in the last 2 games, is that right?
Yeah, I think
fumble.
I think he fumbled it twice, and he recovered it last week.
Yeah,
if I recall correctly. But
this week's fumble, I put a little bit on Aaron too. That was so far outside of where he was probably trying to put it, where Doubs really had to extend his body to make that catch. Again, can't drop it. You gotta control the ball, but I think that's probably one that Aaron would like back, and if he puts that in a tighter spot, Doubs probably has an easier time kind of coming to the ground with it as he's kind of getting hit at pretty quickly after he catches that ball.
Yeah, I mean, and also, again, these guys they're still getting to know each other, they're still developing the chemistry, and that could have been a timing issue. I mean, maybe Rodgers put that in a good spot, and Doubs was not really in the correct place. Ran a correct route, but the timing was off a little bit, or, one step too far or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the stuff we're going to see get ironed out as the season progresses. And the only way that's going to happen is through repetition, you know what I mean? And making those throws and stuff like that. So, I think go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think the highlight of the offense was, of course, seeing, Christian Watson, I believe, his first touchdown. And the announcers said it. I don't know if I saw it as clearly as they say they do, but I do notice Randall Cobb is still got it, right? I mean, he's been making not only clutch third down plays, but he's been
unreal clutch. Yeah, unreal
clutch, but a few like 30, 40 yard, open field yards after the catch type, plays. It's like, what? is Devontae here still? Like last week against Tampa Bay, he had a big one, and then he had another big catch here against the Patriots, which was huge. And I just think, I guess there's a reason why Aaron wanted Cobb back last year or whatever that was, but it's cool to see him contributing so much to the game.
Yeah, and I think he'll end the season probably in that like $500 to $700 yard range, which is great. I think if we can have guys like Alan Lazard and Romeo Doubs up there at the 800 to 900 yards, and then have Randall Cobb and Robert Tonyan and Sammy
Christian
Watkins
Watson.
if we get him back, and Christian Watson would be. We would love that. He doesn't seem to get many targets. He only had one catch last week. And I don't know if that's an issue with their chemistry or what. I mean, obviously, like you heard Tony Romo say, they want to get him involved in the game, and they did, but on a run, and he scored a touchdown. And, I agree when you've got an athlete like that, you got to get him involved, but I'd love to see him targeted a little bit more. And again, I'm not sure if that's just a chemistry issue or if it's more like, wow, Lazard, Dobbs, and Cobb are just open more than he is, or a matter of, snaps. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's transition to the defense. I think so far, my overall grade of them, or my overall, viewpoint of them through the first 4 games has been they're not as good as advertised during the preseason. They are stepping up for sure when it matters the most. For example, at the end of the regulation, this game and that overtime stand was amazing. I mean, essentially, the Patriots needed like 10 to 15 yards to get into reasonable field goal range, and they forced a 3 and out at the 50-yard line. Huge. We're seeing flashes of greatness with Rashawn Gary, but like so far, this is a very leaky defense. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. Yeah, I mean, I think you'd rather have a defense that plays really well situationally when it counts than maybe a defense that really plays awesome statistically, but then, they blow, a drive in overtime or whatever it is. We saw it almost happen last week against Tampa Bay on that last drive of the game, but they were able to shut it down on the last play. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, statistically, this defense is a top 10 defense. I mean, I think they're 7th in the league for points against, 5th in yards total against, less than 300 a game. They're 3rd in the league in passing yards. So, I mean, this is a good defense. Are they as good as we thought they were going to be? Maybe not, but I think if we were expecting them to be a top 3 defense and they end up being like a top 8 or top 10, then you're still in a really good position once this offense starts to get things going, which I think will happen. And
that was going to be my follow-up. I mean, we can be top 10 and win a Super Bowl if our offense is top 5, right? And right now we're definitely not there. One of the names, when you don't hear his name very often, he's playing really well, Kenny Clark. He does get his sacks from time to time, but he's always just stuffing up that middle and, really controlling that run defense, or that running game. Unfortunately, we heard his name after the play, after a huge sack that extended a drive to an eventual go-ahead touchdown. I don't think it was the last go-ahead touchdown, but I think it was kind of maybe late second half. Kenny Clark with an unsportsmanlike after I think Rashawn Gary had a sack. I was kind of disappointed, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to be a dad about it, but
no,
I was kind of bummed to see that. I mean, it was going to be a second and long, second and long, and to basically give that all back and then an eventual go-ahead touchdown, which was the touchdown with the 0 on the play clock, I believe. But I mean, man, how do you do that, Kenny Clark?
Yeah, I mean, he's not only a leader in our defense, he's a leader on this entire team. Guys look up to him. You can't, again, we talk about the physical things, the physical penalties. Those are going to happen, but when you have an opportunity on 3rd down to get off the field and give your offense, really strong field position and opportunity to go score, and you do something like that, that's super disappointing. It's not being a dad about it. I don't think. I mean, you don't expect that from guys like him. And again, I think you said it led to 7 points, and that could have been a